Okay, so The Mandalorian Season 3 is now at an end, and with it we got a lot of questions answered. In it we discovered what Moff Gideon's true plan was, and that was to clone Gus Fring so he could once more build. That was to create clones as part of a secret mission started all the way back in Season 1. Throughout this video we're going to be going through what the Moff was actually doing, what he wanted to achieve, and all of the steps that he took to get there. There's also a big theory that people are doing over his seeming demise in the entry, and I want to talk about how likely I think it is that he's going to return. If you enjoy the video, please hit the thumbs up button, and also don't forget to subscribe for breakdowns like this almost every day. By the way, a huge thank you for clicking this. Now let's get into Moff Gideon's plan. Now Gideon's plan is summing up begins all the way back in Season 1 Episode 1. Using his puppet the Client, Gideon ended up hiring bounty hunters to go and retrieve a creature known as the Asset. Knowing what we know about Keller and Beck, I'm guessing that after he rescued Grogu that he hid him throughout the galaxy, and his potential death may have led them off to seeing an opening to get the child. Now from what we know of the end of the season, this was for a specific reason that involved the Force. Who knows, the Moff may have even been after Beck at some point, as I doubt he would have been too choosy over who this Jedi was. However, Kelleran can obviously put up a fight, whereas the young Grogu wouldn't be able to. Though we know very little about his species, the others that we've met in Yoda and Yaddle have given things away about how powerful they actually are. When George Lucas went over them, he said that these creatures were very much one with nature, and this is how they were able to tap into the Force on the level that they do. So you can see why Grogu would be a prime target for the ambitious Moff. Now the next part of the plan involves the Dark Troopers, which we see Gideon using throughout Season 2. These are advanced battle droids that we saw him using throughout the series, and up until this point there'd been 3 versions of them. Firstly, there was the Phase 1 Dark Trooper, which was similar to your typical droid fighter. Phase 2 built up from this, with a third phase being the bulkier version that we see in Season 2. Gideon studied this technology and saw a way to put it into others, which allowed him to evolve the Dark Trooper to become far more effective.
I have created the next generation Dark Trooper suit, forged from Beskar alloy. And the most impressive improvement is that it has me.
Droids, though useful, lack the instincts that living soldiers have, and they're less able to improvise. Droids are also unable to use the Force, which takes us into the next part of the plan. For decades now, there's been those trying to see if there were ways to create clones that could wield the Force, and the Imperials poured a ton of resources and effort into this. The cloners on Kamino had technology that the Empire ended up taking, and then characters like Dr. Pershing were tasked with making it work. In the case of Gideon, we never saw if he made a breakthrough, but we do know that somehow Palpatine returned eventually, so the groundwork wasn't completely wasted. I know that Gideon also had his sights set on Mandalore, and this was for primarily its Beskar. Beskar is a near indestructible material that has the capability to block blaster bolts, and it's also capable of repelling lightsabers. At the end of Season 2, Gideon saw firsthand how his Dark Troopers were completely demolished by Luke Skywalker, and thus he realised that he needed a way to be able to counter this if he wished to take over. That's where Mandalore came in, and he plundered the planet for its Beskar to use it as an armour which would help against any foe he could encounter. Anyway, in total, Gideon basically wanted to create the perfect soldier, officer, Imperial, and basically person strong enough to rule the entire galaxy. His plan was to create clones that had the ability to use the Force, and he'd then outfit these with Dark Trooper technology, all wrapped up in a suit of Beskar. Since the clones are based on him, they'd have his instincts and mind state, and we saw in the case of the clone troopers how similar they were to Jango Fett when it came to fighting. If you've ever played the Star Wars Bounty Hunter game on the PlayStation 2, then you know Jango completed a mission for Dooku that involved taking down a Dark Jedi, which proved that he was going to be the perfect template for the clones. So Gideon's very much attempting to use himself as a base because in his eyes he's the perfect person to run a meth empire. Anyway, I also have a theory that Gideon was very much trying to replace the Shadow Council, and due to the infighting in the group, he didn't want to rely on them to run things if the Imperials got back in power. Though it's not really touched upon in the show, there was a lot of division amongst the Shadow Council, with them all being out for their own ends. The person who created the council even planned to bring them all together to kill them at the Battle of Jakku, so you very much have the idea that they can't be trusted, not even by their own members. Therefore, Gideon's going with the idea that if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself, and this is why he's chosen himself as a template to take over everything. I doubt Gideon would ever reveal that he's actually using clones, and thus all the deeds carried out by them would be attributed to one person. Say Gideon sent out his clones to rule over several planets, you'd very much get the idea that Gideon was almost godlike and someone that could single-handedly control the entire galaxy. I can't imagine how demoralizing it would be to believe that you'd killed him and then find out there were rumors of him operating out in the galaxy. If you came face to face with him after seemingly destroying him, it would demoralize you so much, and you can definitely see how this would be an advantage to him. Now because of this, many people believe that Gideon might actually still be alive somewhere after the events of the finale. There's lots of theories about how he had a mustache in the first 2 seasons and then didn't in season 3, and this is something the clones themselves shared as well. It's basically Mustache Gate, with lots of theories online saying that this proves that the Gideon that dies is a clone, but I'm not so sure. Disney do tend to keep things pretty simple, and I don't know how many times now there's been fan theories about there being something else going on in these shows that turns out to be untrue. Everything outside of Loki seems to end up being pretty straightforward, and I think that's also going to be the case here too. The fact is, the Gideon we encounter here isn't a Force wielder either, which was the main point in creating the clones in the first place. Now, Gideon may not have managed to hit the point where he could put the Force into his clones yet, but I do kinda hope this is the last we've seen of him. The guy always seems to be shoehorned in at the end of the season, so it at least has a villain, but when he's been beaten 3 times, the threat of him's really diminished. I hope that we get other villains in the upcoming chapters, and with the Shadow Council and Thrawn now being confirmed, I think that they're the right way to take things. Now there's also what was going on with Dr. Pershing, who in hindsight we know was likely part of Gideon's plans. Tempted by Elia Kane, she was able to torture him, and it's possible that he may have been taken out so that his cloning knowledge couldn't be used by others. If Gideon is the only one capable of doing it, then in the end he's the one who holds all the cards. You can kind of see the overall plan in the season, and though I'm not sure if it paid everything off, it does kind of bring things full circle from that first episode. All in all, this entry does feel like it could be the final episode in the entire show, and though we've got lots of things involving the characters coming down the line, we now at least have answers to what exactly is going on. Now, I'd of course love to hear your thoughts on the plan, the season, and whether you think this series delivered or not. Comment below and let me know, and huge thank you for rocking with us through our Mandalorian coverage. We will be back for Ahsoka in August, so make sure you stay locked until then for weekly breakdowns on the series. Now, we are also running a competition right now and giving away the Quantumania Steelbook to 3 subscribers on the 15th of May. All you have to do to be on the chance of winning is to like the video, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and comment below with your thoughts on the series. We pick the comments at random on the 15th, and the winners of the last one are on screen right now, so if that's you, then message me on Twitter at HeavySpoilers. Huge thank you again for rocking with me. I hope you've enjoyed our coverage, and yeah, I'll see you on the next one. You take care of yourself. Peace.